A new policy update has just been dropped on both Konami US and EU's website, highlighting some changes and clarifications on certain occurrences within a tournament setting. In the biggest update to tournament policy and penalty guidelines in 3 years, let's take a look at some of the new points here that you will need to know. I did all the reading, so you don't have to.
We edited this video so Farfa didn't have to.
For that level of depth, I think that deserves a Patreon mention. If you've enjoyed my recent content, then feel free to get involved. Let's begin with everyone's favorite, rule sharking. Judge calls should not be used with the intent to specifically penalize another person, gain an unfair advantage, or misrepresent the game state. If your opponent does something that warrants a penalty, you can call a judge. If the judge finds that everything has been sorted with the judge call but does not issue a penalty, you cannot then turn around and ask for one.
Actually, according to Section H of the Tournament Policy Infraction document,
you can get a warning for trying to shark a punishment out of your opponent. Sharking in general, by the way, is a very incorrectly used worm as a general thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Pass turn to you. Oh, sorry, end phase Scarm effect. No, sorry, it's too late. You click. Some of you think this is sharking. This isn't sharking. This is called get good. We have a new game loss that just dropped. The duelist responsible for submitting the match slip result puts it in their pocket and leaves to get food instead of handing it to the scorekeeper. After 5 minutes have passed from the end of the round, the missing slip is delaying the pairings for the next round. If you finish your match and don't hand in your slip within a reasonable amount of time, you can receive a game loss. Nobody wants 11 PM Swiss rounds. People want to go back to their hotel rooms, unsleeve their decks they spent way too much money on, only to go X4 on day 1 with. Stop delaying the rounds for no reason. There is not a set amount of time a duelist may use per action, but they are expected to pace themselves according to the complexity of the game. This is a clarification specifically on the allocated amount of time in between moves. Some people are under the impression that there is a set amount of time given to you between each individual move. Like, you only get 15 seconds in between each move. This is not true and has never been the case. This policy update clarifies that the amount of time you are given in between each move or interaction that you make is based on the complexity of the game state and basically the judge's discretion and subjective opinion. If my opponent has 3 back row, a quick effect, a searched card, a Nibiru, a warhead in the hand, a hand grenade, 20 seconds before making a move is probably a reasonable amount of thinking time. If my hand is tour guide, nothing else versus 0 cards and I'm sitting there like, then 20 seconds becomes a lot more unreasonable. And again, this is at the discretion and interpretation of your judge. If you don't agree, appeal it. And if you still don't agree, well, we also have some clarification on some of the disqualifiable things that you can perform at a tournament, namely the UC Major section. And the truth be told, if you're committing any of these infractions, you're probably in the wrong hobby and maybe you should try something a bit more like, I don't know, underground pitbull fighting or something. When asked if they have received any previous penalties for an infraction, a duelist who has received previous penalties lies and says they have not. Why would anyone do this? What are you people, like, they have they check this. Why would... A person attends a sanctioned event that prohibits buying and selling items with the intent to buy and or sell items with other people rather than approved vendors. So many of you have probably purchased cards at a tournament. Naturally, you forget cards or you've just seen Joshua Schmidt's deck list on the Friday evening of a YCS and realize you're going to need some crazy common card from the year 2007 that hasn't been printed since then and nobody at the vendors has, or basically anyone around you, and so you're going to have to fork over $17 for this really ridiculously overpriced card, but hey, no one else has it. So you finally find someone who actually has this, and you have to PayPal them the amount of money outside of the venue. If you do want to buy a card, then that's fine as long as you do it outside of the premise, and that's not changed. However, if your sole intention, the only reason you go to events is to take a big stack of thick cash and buy up entire collections from other people and do mass buys and sells with cash transactions, even if you aren't in the venue, my interpretation of this, and this is subject to clarification, I'll maybe leave something in the comment section below to clarify this 100%, but my interpretation of this is that this is actually not allowed. But again, caveat, not 100% sure on this, but I think that this is what this is saying. Cyberbullying, creating online content targeting or harassing another person, appearing on a sex offender registry, being arrested or criminally charged, making threats, or impersonating a Konami employee. F's in the chat for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Greenland Twitter page, am I right? I don't think anyone's going to be upset about sex offenders not being allowed to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh well. A person posts a video accusing another person of cheating. Thank God there are no real examples of this ever happening. It's a good thing we'll never find out what the effect of Fateful Adventure actually does.
Hi, it's you.
A person intentionally misgenders another person. Now, when I first read this, I didn't think much of it because, well, this isn't really something that was ever allowed in the first place. But oh my God, did I make a mistake when I decided to go on the internet? Especially the Brain-Dead Bird app. This is somehow controversial. Apparently, it's woke in 1984 to not be allowed to misgender someone. I guess to really clarify this for people who are well-intentioned, or maybe you're just incapable of reading an entire one singular sentence. I mean, it happens to me. I just learned Curtain Raiser was once per duel this week. But you cannot intentionally misgender someone.
Intentionally.
If someone clarifies to you that they are in fact a girl when you said boy, that's fine. You move on, you apologize, that's life. But if you keep doing it and you keep saying it with the intention to just upset them and for no other reason than to prove a point, whatever that means, then that's going to be a disqualifiable action. So not really clarifying much here, it's just that this was made as an example for people to really look at, and somehow, again, this is controversial. Nothing's changed here. This was never allowed. You were always going to be disqualified if you did something like this. So this idea that you're being thought-crimed Guantanamo 1984 on this is just simply untrue. But what if someone lies to a judge and says that I misgendered them when I didn't actually? Well, this has nothing to do with misgendering or this so-called new change here. This was always illegal. You can't lie to a judge. If someone was going to lie to a judge, they would have done so without this policy change in the first place. A person submits fraudulent proof of vaccination. Sorry, but what are you people doing over there? Like, what is going on in the colonies? Like, I know they were rowdy with, like, the Super Bowl recently, but what is this? I have so many questions, but honestly, I'm European. I get, like, 3 vaccinations per week administered by Karl Marx himself, so what do I know? I hope you enjoyed this video and received some beneficial clarification on some of these things. Thank you so much for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe, and until next time, subscribe to my Patreon or Twitch streams. Thank you, and goodbye. Adios! Dedicated to each individual action a duelist takes per duel. We'll get it this time, I promise. Holy fuck, finally nailed it. Of the current game state